Hi, everybody. Welcome. It is our Patreon night here on the Audace Network and Magical Mystery Hour. So excited. I'm just waiting for the live notification pop up. It looks like we're good. I did forget one thing before we get started with the story. I forgot to, if you read the description, you'll notice that, Zoom is, that Paul is going to join us. And Zoom is running some updates, so I still have to send him the little Zoom link. So before I start reading, I'm going to make sure that Zoom is all ready. So let me close Zoom and try one more time. Anyways, I will do my best to do a few things at once. So I'm decided, I was going back and forth today on what I'm doing. And I decided that today I'm going to read you another H.P. Lovecraft. I do like reading Lovecraft. He's so interesting, very wordy, but vague at the same time. So let's see. How about, like I said, I don't know why these are not popping up. Okay, if Paul is watching, I'm just going to make a new meeting for now because it does that. And other meeting. It's been very weird. And I will, let's see if I can easily copy my link for him. Invite. What's happening? Okay. Copy invite link. There we go. Okay, let me get this to Paula, and then I will start reading you your H.P. Lovecraft. So, I decided to do this one. It was mostly the title that grabbed me when I first saw it. I was like, ooh. This is about a student. I feel like a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's stories involve students. And so it's about a student, and he hears music in the streets. So that kind of caught my attention right there because it is called The Music of Erich Zann. Okay, so that's it. Oh my goodness. This is not, okay, hold on. Let's see if it'll open it here. I feel terrible. Oh, there we go. Because now Facebook wasn't letting me do it. So Paul, if you're watching, I'm sending you the Zoom link right now. You don't have to join just yet. Oh, okay. Let me try this one too. And it's different than it normally is, but there we go. So hopefully it'll all work fine. If not, we'll figure it out. Okay. So now, without further ado, although maybe a little ado, did you see my shirt? I got this today because I saw it and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited by this. What do you think? It says hide and seek. I know you can't see the bottom of it. It says hide and seek world champion, undefeated. Love it. Emily says, I love it. This is very cool. All right. How's my volume? You might need a little more volume from me, maybe. Let's see. How is the volume okay before I start? I'll look at the chat. Let's see. I mean, let me look at OBS. I think OBS, but usually OBS says it's fine, and then other people are like, it's too quiet. But it looks okay to me in OBS. Good. Emily says it sounds good. All right. Okay. Then let's get started with H.P. Lovecraft's The Music of Erich Zann. I have examined maps of the city with the greatest care, yet have never again found Rue d'Orsay. These maps have not been modern maps alone, for I know that names change. I have, on the contrary, delved deeply into all the antiquities of the place, and have personally explored every region of whatever name which could possibly answer to the street I knew as the Rue d'Orsay. But despite all I have done, it remains an humiliating fact that I cannot find the house, the street, or even the locality where, during the last months of my impoverished life as a student of metaphysics at the university, I heard the music of Erich Zann. That my memory is broken, I do not wonder, for my health, physical and mental, was gravely disturbed throughout the period of my residence in Rue d'Orsay, and I recall that I took none of my few acquaintances there. But that I cannot find the place again is both singular and perplexing, for it was written... Let's say that part again. But that I cannot find the place again is both singular and perplexing, for it was within a half an hour's walk of the university and was distinguished... Oh my goodness, I'm going to try a third time. But that I cannot find the place again is both singular and perplexing, for it was within a half an hour's walk of the university and was distinguished by peculiarities which could hardly be forgotten by anyone who had been there. I have never met a person who has seen the Rue d'Orsay. The Rue d'Orsay lay across a dark river bordered by the precipitous brick, blear-windowed warehouses and spanned by a ponderous bridge of dark stone. It was always shadowy along that river, as if the smoke of neighboring factories shut out the sun perpetually. The river was also odorous with evil stenches which I have never smelled elsewhere, and which may some day help me find it, since I should recognize them at once. Beyond the bridge were narrow cobbled streets with rails, and then came the ascent, at first gradual, but incredibly steep as the Rue d'Orsay was reached. I have never seen another street as narrow and steep as the Rue d'Orsay. It was almost a cliff closed to all vehicles, consisting in several places of flights of steps and ending at the top of a lofty ivied wall. Its paving was irregular, sometimes stone slabs, sometimes cobblestones, and sometimes bare earth with struggling grayish-green vegetation. The houses were tall, peak-roofed, incredibly old, and crazily leaning backward, forward, and sideways. Occasionally, an opposite pair, both leaning forward, almost met across the street like an arch, and certainly they kept most of the light from the ground below. There were a few overhead bridges from house to house across the street. The inhabitants of that street impressed me peculiarly. At first, I thought it was because they were all silent and reticent, but later decided it was because they were all very old. I don't know how I came to live on such a street, but it was not myself when I moved there. I had been living in many poor places, always evicted for want of money, until at last I came upon that tottering house in the Rue d'Orsay, kept by the paralytic Blandot. It was the third house from the top of the street, and by far the tallest of them all. My room was on the 5th story, the only inhabited room there, since the house was almost empty. On the night I arrived, I heard strange music from the peaked garret overhead, and the next day I asked old Blandot about it. He told me it was an old German viol player, a strange dumb man who signed his name as Erich Zann, and who played evenings in a cheap theater orchestra, adding that Zann's desire to play the night after his return from the theater was the reason he had chosen this lofty and isolated garret room, whose single gable windows were the only point on the street from which one could look over the terminating wall and the declivity and panorama beyond. Thereafter, I heard Zann every night, and although he kept me awake, I was haunted by the weirdness of his music. Knowing little of the art myself, I was yet certain that none of his harmonies had any relation to the music I'd heard before, and concluded that he was a composer of highly original genius. The longer I listened, the more I was fascinated, until after a week, I resolved to make the old man's acquaintance. One night, as he was returning from his work, I intercepted Zann in the hallway and told him that I would like to know him and be with him when he played. He was a small, lean, bent person with shabby clothes, blue eyes, grotesque satyr-like face, and nearly bald-headed. At my first words, he seemed both angered and frightened. My obvious friendliness, however, finally melted him, and he grudgingly motioned to me to follow him up the dark, creaking, and rickety attic stairs. His room, one of only two in the steeply pitched garret, was on the west side, toward the high wall that formed the upper end of the street. It was very great, and seemed the greater because of its extraordinary bareness and neglect. Of furniture, there was only a narrow iron bedstead, a dingy washstand, a small table, a large bookcase, an iron music rack, and 3 old-fashioned chairs. Sheets of music were piled in disorder about the floor. The walls were of bare boards and had probably never known plaster, while the abundance of dust and cobwebs made the place seem more deserted than inhabited. Evidently, Erich Zann's world of beauty lay in some far cosmos of the imagination. Motioning me to sit down, the dumb man closed the door, turned the large wooden bolt, and lighted a candle to augment the one he had brought with him. He now removed his vial from its moth-eaten covering and, taking it, seated himself in the least uncomfortable of the chairs. He did not employ the music rack, but offering no choice and playing from memory, he enchanted me for over an hour with strains I had never heard before. Strains which must have been of his own devising. To describe their exact nature is impossible for one unversed in music. There was a kind of fugue with recurrent passages of the most captivating quality, but to me were notable for the absence of any of the weird notes I had overheard from my room on other occasions. Those haunting notes I remembered and had often hummed and whistled inaccurately to myself. So when the player at length laid down his bow, I asked him if he could render some of them. As I began my request, the wrinkled satyr-like face almost lost the bored placidity it had possessed during the playing, and seemed to shew the same curious mixture of anger and fright which I had noticed when I first accosted the old man. For a moment, I was inclined to use persuasion, regarding rather lightly the whims of senility, and even tried to awaken my host's weirder moods by whistling a few of the strains to which I had listened the night before. But I did not pursue this course for more than a moment, for when the dumb musician recognized the whistled air and his face grew suddenly distorted with an expression wholly beyond analysis, as a long, cold, bony right hand reached out to stop my mouth and silence the crude imitation. As he did this, he further demonstrated his eccentricity by casting a startled glance towards the lone curtained window, as if fearful of some intruder, a glance doubly absurd, since the garret stood high and inaccessible above all the adjacent roofs. This window being the only point on the steep street, as the concierge had told me, from which one could see the wall at the summit. The old man's glance brought Blandot's remark to my mind, and with a certain capriciousness, I felt a wish to look out over the wide and dizzying panorama of moonlit roofs and city lights beyond the hilltop, which of all dwellers in the Rue d'Orsay, only this crabbed musician could see. I moved toward the window and would have drawn aside the nondescript curtains, when with a frightened rage even greater than before the dumb lodger was upon me again, this time motioning with his head toward the door as he nervously strove to drag me thither with both hands. Now thoroughly disgusted with my host, I ordered him to release me and told him I would go at once. His clutch relaxed, and as he saw my disgust and offense, his own anger seemed to subside. He tightened his relaxing grip, but this time in a friendly manner, forcing me into a chair. Then, with an appearance of wistfulness crossing to the littered table, where I wrote many words with a pencil in the labored French of a foreigner. The note which he finally handed me was an appeal for tolerance and forgiveness. Zann said that he was old, lonely, and afflicted with strange fears and nervous disorders connected with his music and with other things. He had enjoyed my listening to his music and wished I could come again and not mind his eccentricities. But he could not play to another his weird harmonies, and could not bear hearing them from another. Nor could he bear having anything in his room touched by another. He had not known until our hallway conversation that I could overhear his playing in my room, and now asked me if I could arrange with Blandot to take the lower room where I could not hear him in the night. He would, he wrote, defray the difference in the rent. As I sat deciphering the execrable French, I felt more lenient toward the old man. He was a victim of physical and nervous suffering, as was I, and my metaphysical studies had taught me kindness. In the silence, there came a slight sound from the window. The shutter must have rattled in the night wind, and for some reason I started almost as violently as Erich Zann. So when I had finished reading, I shook my host by the hand and departed as a friend. The next day, Blandot gave me a more expensive room on the 3rd floor, between the apartments of an aged moneylender and the room of a respectable upholsterer. There was no one on the 4th floor. It was not long before I found out that Zann's eagerness for my company was not as great as it had seemed while he was persuading me to move down from the 5th story. He did not ask me to call on him, and when I did, he appeared uneasy and played listlessly. This was always at night. In the day he slept, and he would admit no one. My liking for him did not grow, though the attic room and the weird music seemed to hold an odd fascination for me. I had a curious desire to look out of that window and over the wall and down the unseen slope at the glittering roofs and spires which must lie outspread there. Once I went up the garret during theater hours when Zann was away, but the door was locked. What I did succeed in doing was to overhear the nocturnal playing of the dumb old man. At first, I would tiptoe up to my old 5th floor, and then I grew bold enough to climb the last creaking staircase to the peaked garret. There, in the narrow hall, outside the bolted door with the covered keyhole, I often heard sounds which filled me with an indefinable dread, the dread of a vague wonder and brooding mystery. It was not that the sounds were hideous, for they were not, but that they held vibrations suggesting nothing on this globe of earth, and at that certain intervals they assumed a symphonic quality which I could hardly conceive as produced by one player. Certainly, Erich Zann was a genius of wild power. As the weeks passed, the playing grew wilder, whilst the old musician acquired an increasing haggardness and furtiveness pitiful to behold. He now refused to admit me at any time and shunned me whenever he met me on the stairs. Then, one night as I listened at the door, I heard the shrieking viol swell into a chaotic babble of sound, a pandemonium which would have led me to doubt my own shaking sanity, had there not come from the beyond that barred portal a piteous proof that the horror was real. The awful inarticulate cry which only a mute can utter, and which rises only in moments of the most terrible fear or anguish. I knocked repeatedly at the door, but received no response. Afterward, I waited in the black hallway, shivering with cold and fear, till I heard the poor musician's feeble effort to rise from the floor by the aid of a chair. Believing him just conscious after a fainting fit, I renewed my rapping, at the same time calling out my name reassuringly. I heard Zann stumble to the window and close both shutter and sash, then stumble to the door, which he falteringly unfastened to admit me. This time, his delight at having me present was real. for his distorted face gleamed with relief while he clutched at my coat as a child clutches at its mother's skirts. Shaking pathetically, the old man forced me into a chair while he sank into another, besides which his viol and bow lay carelessly on the floor. He sat for some time, inactive, nodding oddly, but having a paradoxical suggestion of intense and frightened listening. Subsequently, he seemed to be satisfied, and crossing to a chair by the table, wrote a brief note, handed it to me, and returned to the table, where he began to write rapidly and incessantly. The note implored me, in the name of mercy and for the sake of my own curiosity, to wait there. While I was prepared a full account in German of all the marvels and terrors which beset him. I waited, and the dumb man's pencil flew. It was perhaps an hour later, while I still waited, and while the old musician's feverishly written sheets still continued to pile up, that I saw Zann start, as from the hint of a horrible shock. Unmistakably, he was looking at the curtained window and listening shudderingly. Then I half fancied I heard a sound myself, though it was not a horrible sound, but rather an exquisitely low and infinitely distant musical note, suggesting a player in one of the neighboring houses, or in some abode beyond the lofty wall over which I had never been able to look. Upon Zann, the effect was terrible. For dropping his pencil suddenly, he rose, seized his viol, and commenced to rend the night with the wildest playing I had ever heard from his bow while listening at the barred door. It would be useless to describe the playing of Erich Zann on that dreadful night. It was more horrible than anything I'd ever overheard, because I could now see the expression on his face, and could realize that this time the motive was stark fear. He was trying to make a noise, to ward something off or drown something out. What? I could not imagine. Awesome though I felt it must be. The playing grew fantastic, delirious, and hysterical, yet kept to the last at the qualities of supreme genius which I knew this strange old man possessed. I recognized the air. It was a wild Hungarian dance popular in the theaters, and I reflected for a moment that this was the first time I had ever heard Zann play the work of another composer. Louder and louder and wilder mounted the shrieking and whining of that desperate viol. The player was dripping with an uncanny perspiration and twisted like a monkey, always looking frantically at that curtained window. In his frenzied strains, I could almost see the shadowy satyrs and bacchanals dancing and whirling insanely through seething abysses of clouds and smoke and lightning. And then I thought I heard a shriller, steadier note that was not from the viol, a calm, deliberate, purposeful, mocking note from far away in the west. At this juncture, the shutter began to rattle in a howling night wind, which had sprung up outside as if in answer to the mad playing within. Zann's screaming viol now outdid itself, emitting sounds I had never thought a viol could emit. The shutter rattled more loudly, unfastened, and commenced slamming against the window. Then the glass broke shiveringly under the persistent impacts, and the wind rushed in, making the candle sputter and rustling the sheets of paper on the table where Zann had begun to write out his horrible secret. I looked at Zann and saw that he was past conscious observation. His blue eyes were bulging, glassy, and sightless, and the frantic playing had become blind, mechanical, and unrecognizable orgy that no pen could ever suggest. A sudden gust, stronger than the others, caught up the manuscript and bore it towards the window. I followed the flying sheets in desperation, but they were gone before I reached the demolished panes. Then I remembered my old wish to gaze from the window, the only window in the Rue d'Essai from which one might see the slope beyond the wall and the city outspread beneath. It was very dark, but the city's lights always burned, and I expected to see them there amidst the rain and wind. Yet, when I looked out from that highest of all gable windows, looked while the candles sputtered and the insane vial howled with a night wind, I saw no city spread below, and no friendly lights gleamed from the remembered streets, but only the blackness of space illimitable. Unimagined space alive with motion and music, having no semblance to anything on earth. And as I stood there looking in terror, the wind blew out both candles in the ancient peaked garret, leaving me in savage and impenetrable darkness with chaos and pandemonium before me, and the demon madness of that night baying vile behind me. I staggered back in the darkness, without the means of striking a light, crashing against the tables, overturning a chair, and finally groping my way to the place where the blackness screamed with shocking music. To save myself and Erich Zann, I could at least try, whatever the powers opposed to me. Once I thought some chilling thing had brushed me, and I screamed, but my scream could not be heard above that hideous vial. Suddenly, the blackness, the madly swaying bow struck me, and I knew I was close to the player. I felt ahead. I touched the back of Zann's chair and then found the shock and his shoulders in an effort to bring him to his senses. He did not respond, and still the vial shrieked on without slackening. I moved my hand to his head, whose mechanical nodding I was able to stop, and shouted in his ear that we must both flee from the unknown things of the night. But he never answered me, nor abated his frenzy of his unutterable music, while all through the garret strange currents of wind seemed to dance in the darkness and babble. When my hand touched his ear, I shuddered, though I knew not why. Knew not why till I felt the still of his face, the ice-cold, stiffened, unbreathing face, whose glassy eyes bulged uselessly into the void. And then, by some miracle, finding the door and the large wooden bolt, I plunged wildly away from that glassy-eyed thing in the dark, and from the ghoulish howling of the accursed vial, whose fury increased even as I plunged. Leaping, floating, flying down those endless stairs through the dark house, racing mindlessly into the narrow, steep, and ancient streets of steps and tottering houses, clattering down steps and over cobblestones to the lower streets and the putrid canyon-walled river, panting across the great dark bridge to the broader, healthier streets and the boulevards we know. All these terrible impressions that linger with me. And I recall there was no wind, and that the moon was out, and that all of the lights of the city twinkled. Despite my most careful searches and investigations, I have never since been able to find the Rue d'Orsay. But I am not wholly sorry, either for this or for the loss of undreamable abyss of the closely written sheets, which alone could have explained the music of Erich Zann. All right, that is the story. H.P. Lovecraft's The Music of Erich Zann. Very interesting, right? Yeah, it's a really fascinating story. I really like, one of the reasons I picked it was, again, the music of it aspect is really interesting. It's like so detailed you can almost hear it, and yet he doesn't write much. He always says, I can't explain it to you. I can't explain it. And yet you can almost hear it. It's so fascinating. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I see Emily enjoyed it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad you did. All right. Well, for the next part, I'm going to have David join me. We think that we got everything worked out. So let me get this up. Hang on. And great. And you are unmuted, David. So let us know if there's any problems with the sound because we worked it out beforehand, but you never know.
Okay. I see myself moving, so this is good.
It is good.
This is great. Hooray.
I know.
Huzzah. Yeah, you guys have no idea how much trouble this setup has been. It seems like we get it working once, right? And then 2-3 weeks later, we try and do it again, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And we have to go through everything all over again.
Very frustrating.
Yeah. So, yes, but it is working. We're not on Zoom, so the quality is better, and it's just,
Yeah.
If only I could have heard that story. I'm sure it was a good one.
Yeah. Emily says that she loves your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
We're both wearing our fun new shirts today.
Yes. Yes. So we have to do the story of the Millennium Maltese Falcon.
Yes. How about I'll make it, might put myself in it, and it'll be like the millennial.
There you go.
Maltese
there you
go. So what do you think of the story?
It's funny because as I'm hearing these stories, I'm of course listening to them, but I am also, as you're talking, I'm also envisioning, trying to get an idea of what I might do at the piano. So listening to the story through that filter was kind of interesting, rather than just listening to it and appreciating the creepiness of it all.
And it is creepy.
And what I find interesting too is, unlike the first H.P. Lovecraft story that you read, this one, he doesn't tell you what's going on.
No, I know.
I mean, obviously you can make some guesses that maybe we've got a Faustian situation here. He made a deal with the devil with you. Who knows what was going on? And I don't know if Erich Zann was supposed to be alive or dead at the end of it. If it's like his dead body playing, or if he's just so far gone from the conscious realm that there's no bringing him back.
And I can't help but wonder, is that what happens to him every night?
Yeah.
Does he like die and then come back to life kind of thing every night?
Maybe.
I know. It's always fun. Like, it's an unsolved mystery. I love it and hate it at the same time.
Well, and especially since it ends with the narrator just like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
I'm out.
And
which is how more stories should be. They're realistic. Get out of there.
Yeah. Indeed. But, if anybody besides the two of us has seen the Netflix show Lock and Key.
So good.
The description of what he was seeing through the window, kind of what I was mentally picturing, was what they see through that portal door. Maybe more chaotic than that, but that's kind of the image that I had in my head. So if anybody has seen Lock and Key, you can picture that. If
you
not,
haven't, it's pretty good. You should watch it. Recommendation.
Yeah. 3 seasons, I think.
A lot of these shows are 3 seasons.
Very good show. Anyhow, we're not here to talk about that.
No, we're not.
That was just
a little aside. Yeah. Netflix wants to sponsor a show or anything.
Hey, I have no problem advertising Netflix. If they're paying us.
Right.
Yeah, it was an interesting listen.
Yeah.
And I've got some ideas as to what I might do with it, and I apologize in advance for it.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to wrangle Lily.
Yes.
I'm going to leave my mixer on for a sec. So if you want to talk about anything else while I get her, because if I switch out, then we don't hear your microphones.
Right.
So let me go get her, and then I will come back and turn my mixer opposite. Yeah.
Right.
And all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just see if I have this. Great. Okay, so it's just you on the screen right now. I'll go grab Lily.
Okay. Whoa. Sorry, almost pulled my piano bench over. Um, where's Lily? I would imagine Lily's on the couch in the family room. Lucy's right here. I don't know if you want to grab her too. So yeah, I've got kind of an idea of direction on what to do with this. Yeah, I found it interesting. There's mention of the only mention of an actual musical form in this whole thing was he mentions that Erich Zann was playing something that sounded a bit like a fugue at one point, and a fugue is a very specific, very strict musical form that was probably most popular during the time of Bach, so 1700s. Um, but it was certainly used in typically in movements, but sometimes standalone pieces, but in pieces by later composers, all the way up to the present day. Um, and it's one where you have an opening idea, typically just basically played one note at a time, so no chords or anything, just an opening line, one note at a time. And then once that idea, that sort of musical phrase is finished, then it would come in again. So now you got two notes going at the same time. It would come in again a certain interval up or down on the keyboard. Yeah, I'm talking. So anyhow, it would come in again, and then the first hand or the first voice would continue playing notes. It would do something contrasting to the thematic material that's now being played again at a higher or lower interval. And then depending on how many voices are in the fugue, they could have as many as you want, really. But most commonly, sometimes two, but most commonly three or four voices. Sometimes Bach wrote, I think, some 6 or 8 voice fugues that were just completely nutty. But anyhow, you keep adding the voices. So each time a voice comes in, you recognize it because you recognize the entrance because it's the opening melodic idea again, just transposed to a different spot on the keyboard. But then the original voices still do other stuff. So for instance, well, I'll play a little bit of the famous toccata and fugue in D minor, the fugue bit, just because it. Actually, I should probably open it just so I can illustrate it. It's not something that I can improvise. There have been composers who can improvise this kind of stuff. I don't know, or not just composers, but performers. I don't know how they do it. Honestly, a fugue is an incredibly difficult thing to improvise simply because the form is so strict. There's just stuff that has to be done at certain times in certain ways. Seems that's probably where's an easy one. Not quite yet. Yeah, so once Amanda switches everything so you can hear the piano mics, you won't hear this mic again. So that's why I want to finish talking first. But yeah, I'll play a little bit of this Bach fugue, not the toccata and fugue in D minor, is a different one. I'll play a little bit of it just so you can get an idea of what a fugue sounds like. So what H.P. Lovecraft was referencing. I thought, wow, it'd be really cool if I could incorporate something like that into my improv, but there's no way. It's not something I can do. Anyhow, yeah. So Amanda, why don't you go ahead and switch the mics around, and I will play the opening of this a little bit, and then I'll get over to an improv.
All right. We can hear you talking. And now we can see me. All right. Hooray.
That's good because we're in See Me Valley.
Hooray.
The place is full of mirrors. That's how it got its name.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, totally.
Emily says that was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was one of the rare excuses I've ever had just to slap random notes on the keyboard. And a lot of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I hope that my attempted depiction, came through with that real boom, 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 being the street theme, and then played in. That was very purposeful in E flat minor. It's a very dark kind of just sounding key.
Yeah.
And then the violin I had coming in like C major and A minor. So like basically I'm playing all the black keys down here and then playing all these white keys up at the top of the keyboard.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah, just kind of followed along with the story. And
Lucy says hi.
Oh.
Hi, Lucy.
I tried to do. I was like, shoot! I wish I'd put the music up on the screen because I wanted to do one of Liszt's a snippet of one of Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsodies, for this wild Hungarian theme. And I got to it, I was like, I know which one I want to do, and I cannot remember how it goes right now. So I ended up playing something that was just, I don't even know what, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Lucy's bringing her toys in.
Oh, dear. Lucy wants to play.
There's a lot of chords.
Yep. Or especially, there's extras now, especially.
I know. So, yes. I don't know if you can hear growling in the background.
Excuse me a little bit.
Great. All right. Well, I think we're ready to move on to the last segment of our show now. But thank you, David. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And now I'm going to...
Don't forget to mute me.
Yes. Here we go. Okay, there you go. David is now muted. We had to go through all these extra little tricks to get it to work. And now let me find I had also switched this up a little bit. 2 up. Okay, I'm going to get a Paul Carganilla. Why is there a 3 up? Let me get a Paul Carganilla in a sec. It's showing. Oh, I remember this was a problem before. Okay, hold on. When we had at the last show, for some reason the screen was working. David, you're still on the screen, so you know. I'm just looking for my guest video capture. Should you be ready to talk? Is that what you said? Oh, hold on. I think this is the one I want. Okay. Let me get rid of David's camera and put on. And why isn't it showing me Paul Carganilla? Okay, hang on. It even shows you right here. But then it doesn't show you on the picture. I wish I could show you guys my OBS right now. Because when I do my properties, it's like, look, you have Paul right here. Hang on. Okay. On the preview, it shows Paul. And then, that's why. Oh, that's hilarious. The cut is showing just Paul's guitar. Hold on. I just have to move my camera around.
I don't know if you can hear me.
I can, yes.
I cannot hear you.
You can't hear. Oh, okay. Hang on. Okay. Let me see if that's going to cause any echoes. I just turned Zoom, the Zoom audio on. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yes.
Okay,
I
good.
can hear you now.
Okay, I'm just working on being able to see you because, again, for some reason the camera's set up where I only see your guitar. And
That's fine.
Yeah. And your picture is really big. I don't know what it's deciding to do right now. I can't make it zoom out the way I want it.
Billboard Polly.
You are huge right now. I need to figure. That's the second step that I need to figure out. Your face is it's huge.
I can see it. I can see the YouTube feed. I can't hear it, but
okay. I'm like, what are you doing? How do I zoom you out? Let me see if this. No. Let me just try.
No OBS, but I wish I did.
Okay, I'll do this. That was the easy way to zoom you out.
How about this? While you figure that out, I'll play a tune.
Ooh, okay. Let me hold on. Let me do this.
Okay. I was supposed to play it. I think the last one.
There we go. Yeah.
You read a story about.
Oh yeah, was it
being your own worst enemy or something?
Yes, like I'm my own worst enemy. That wasn't the one I hope you were doing.
It's not the one.
Okay, good. I was like, did I just spoil your song?
I'll just mess around while you
Yeah, I think I just about got you set up. For some reason, it's not letting me do the bottom, but.
Whoa. Don't forget about the things I said when I was drunk.
There we go. All right, you're set up on the 2-up now.
Yes.
All right. So what do you want to start with? What would you like to?
Do you want to do this music or no?
Sure. Let me get you then. I'm gonna put you full screen
just
and on your.
Even more.
I know. This should work, but and then I'm gonna make you full screen, and one more full screen. I don't know if you can hear. Oh no. Why did it mute you? No. There you go. I was like, why are you muted? All right. Okay, well, I'm going to leave you to explain this song and have fun.
Well, it's called it's called my own worst enemy, and I was supposed to play it last time. Amanda told a story about a gentleman who was his own worst enemy, and it didn't make it on, and so this is a makeup for that. Thank you all for being here. What band is this? I think it's Lit from the late 90s, early aughts. Can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk? I didn't mean to call you that. I can't remember what was said or what you threw at me. Please tell me why. My car is in the front yard, and I'm sleeping with my clothes on. I came in through the window last night, and you're gone. It's no surprise to me, I am my own worst enemy. Every now and then I kick the living shit out of me. The smoke alarm is going off, and there's a cigarette still burning. Please tell me why. My car is in the front yard, and I'm sleeping with my clothes on. I came in through the window last night, and you're gone. Why? My car is in the front yard, and I'm sleeping with my clothes on. I came in through the window last night. It's no surprise to me, I am my own worst enemy. Every now and then I kick the living shit out of me. Can we forget about the things I said when I was drunk? I didn't mean to call you that. There's some lit. My Own Worst Enemy.
That was great.
That was lit.
Yes. And I was laughing. I was because I don't know if you ever watched Parks and Rec. But I was like, the first thing I heard, I was like, wait, I hear Andy Dwyer singing this song. I was like, they did like the tiniest little snippet of this song when they were playing like Guitar Hero or something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
I feel like, I think the last time I heard that song, Dan Franklin covered it.
Oh, he did?
In our New Year's Eve, our 2020 New Year's Eve
wow.
show. I could be wrong, but I think that might be the
last
time I heard that song.
I forgot. I really do like that. I was like, yeah, like I had almost forgotten about it.
Yeah, we got to like knock out like eight songs before the cops shut us down. And we had to strategically edit that through our whole New Year's Eve special.
I was going to say, the flashing lights come on.
We made the mistake of putting the drummer like in the treehouse. So the drums echoed throughout. We filmed it in Stephanie Renee Wall's backyard.
Yes.
And elevating drums in a residential neighborhood, probably not the smartest thing we could have done.
Probably not, but it was fun.
It was fun. All right.
And so you have some like cool updates for us.
Yeah, well, so I don't know how many people remember the Rey Rivera episode.
How could you forget? That was probably one of the most epic nights we had, because I think that was the same night that I did the Emanuela Orlandi episode, and we did Rey Rivera. That was an epic night.
That was a solid like 4-hour night.
It really was.
But so if anybody remembers, Rey Rivera mysteriously showed up, like went missing, and then showed up deceased, crumpled body in a meeting room in a hotel. Between the hotel and the parking structure of the hotel, there was this like mini mall, and the top floor used to be the pool of the hotel, and then it was a meeting room at the time, where his body was finally found there. And this was wild to me because I did a lot of research. This is probably like, I don't know if our regular listeners realize it when I'm talking, but a lot of times I'm just like talking out of my butt. And no, but like.
But you have like a lot of notes and stuff.
I do, but like, so this is the one I watched multiple documentaries on. I literally read a book on, which if you know me, like getting me to read a book is like crazy.
It's hard to spend the time, like to sit down and,
If it's not on Audible and I can't listen to it on my drives and my walk,
right?
Like, come on. But so it was cool because like I really felt connected to the story, and I felt connected to the hotel where it happened, and I had the opportunity. I had this work trip last month to Washington, D.C., which is, I discovered, was just a 45-minute train ride away from the heart of Baltimore. And I thought, one night after the conference, I'm going to go have dinner there and walk around and see the places that I've read about, seen photos and videos of, and feel the energy. If you remember the episode, Ray frequented it was called the Owl Bar, which is on the first floor of the hotel, the Belvedere Hotel in Baltimore, and had a lot of business meetings there with his good friend Porter Stansberry, if you remember.
I love him. I should say I love his name.
Yes. And then on the 13th floor was the overlook, or I forget exactly what it's called, but the bar that overlooked the whole city of Baltimore. And then the questions were, did Ray go up to that floor and find a way out to run and jump off the top of the building? And unfortunately, So there's like every 15 minutes there's a train that goes from Washington D.C. to Baltimore, but the last one that returns to D.C. leaves at like 7:15 in the evening.
Okay.
And the top floor bar didn't open until 7 o'clock, so I couldn't actually go to that one. But I got to have dinner at the Owl Bar and walk around the hotel, and I just wanted to share it with our amazing Magical Mystery Patreon members. Amanda, if you're able to give me the power to share my screen.
If I remember how to do it. Okay, right. Share.
And then it's going to screw up your whole OBS anyway when I do.
Right? I'll be like, let me see. So when I press share, let's see, one participant sharing time, multiple participants sharing, advanced sharing options,
if you make
maybe?
me a co-host, that'll work.
Oh, all participants. There we go.
There you go.
All right. Great.
Since the participants are you and I.
I know, right? So many participants can share now. All right.
I've got some photos and some pictures from my trip there I'd like to walk you through. And then if you have any if anybody has any questions, having seen the photos and heard the story. So this is when I was, this created a whole new problem for you, didn't it?
No.
Oh, you're good.
That's, yeah.
All right. So this is when I was walking up to it for the first time. And if you remember, while watching and listening to the episode, there's that mini mall between the parking structure and the actual Belvedere Hotel. And so this is me walking up to it and kind of zeroing in on that mini mall. Belvedere Galleria. Yeah, so there's clearly the parking structure and the hotel, and then it's separated by a galleria. So I checked it out. The galleria doors were locked. I couldn't actually walk in there because I guess in order to do business there, you need to find another way in. But I walked up. So this is from the top of the parking structure. There are cameras everywhere there, so I just tried to look super cool, like I'm just a tourist taking pictures. I didn't want to get kicked out before I got the pleasure of having dinner at the Owl Bar there.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
So, if you remember, some theories were he came out of one of these windows up at the top and made a running jump off. Or the very, very top of the building. And so here's just a panning video from the parking structure. Just to kind of give...
And remind me, did he land on that, what you looked at, what you ended on, or did he land in like that, like right what we see right now, like at the bottom of that?
So I'll show you.
Oh,
so
okay.
The roof of the mini mall is between the parking structure and the hotel, and that's where he went.
I was going to say, otherwise that's really far.
Yeah, so the idea was either he came out of this window or this window, which were privately owned condos, and made a run off these ledges and went down.
Right.
Or he was on the very, very top of the roof and made a run, but the distance to cover would just be too wild.
Right.
There's another shot. Took several photos. So now I'm standing on the edge of the parking structure, looking up, and then if I walk up to that ledge there and look down, this is the ceiling of the roof of the mini mall. So the hole where he landed is actually right here where I'm putting the cursor. For some reason, I thought it was like this dark spot.
Right.
Here,
it would make sense.
But it wasn't. Like when I went back and looked at it, I actually have the photo of the actual hole where he fell through, and that is right here. So you see the skylights there. It's a different angle, but...
okay. Yeah, it is really far. Okay. It's a lot closer to the edge.
Yeah,
but still.
that edge isn't the edge of the actual hotel. It's the edge of
them. Yeah.
like a whole different unit. Could it be more confusing? I don't know. So now you see that whole other unit that's between the hotel and the parking structure and the skylights, and so the hole was about right here. And I will, while we're here, show this last other photo that is not mine. And so this is the inside the room of the conference room where his body was found. Just so you kind of get a perspective of like what the room maybe looked like it was a meeting room. And you see the light coming in from the skylights and where his body. This photo is taken from a doorway that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But basically, if you open the door to this room, you see across there's another door. So this photo is taken from the door that the person who discovered his body opened and found his body there. And I actually found that door while I was there, and I will show that to you in a minute. But this is just perspective of what it looked like inside.
And I just actually find, like, I hadn't thought about it before, the way that his body, because you see the bottom of the chalk outline, like the way he was laying down is like so perfect considering how he must have fallen. Like, I'd imagine his body would be much more crumpled, but it's just like laid out. His legs were perfectly.
Body was obliterated. Like, most of his bones were broken.
Yeah.
But they say, like, he jumped off the top and fell through the ceiling here, and that's how it happened. And that's a huge part of the mystery. Like, I've shared this with a bunch of people. Like, I feel like he was killed. He was run over by a car or a train or something. And somebody who works in this hotel put his body there. Emily says in the chat, none of the cameras outside the building were working that night that it happened. So convenient.
I know.
That's just another look back up. Oh wait, this is the video, so let me see what it is. Again, I thought that was the hole for some reason.
It just makes sense.
I was like, they just haven't repaired it at all.
Right.
That's another video I took for some reason. I was like, either that ledge or that ledge. Did he take her? Like, could you imagine running?
No, on that ledge. Ledges? I remember commenting on that and being like, no, I would have fallen like 2 steps in.
Yeah.
Just.
So.
And Emily also reminds us that there were drag marks on his flip-flops.
Yeah, drag marks on his flip-flops. So all of his personal items were placed on the ceiling around the hole. His flip-flops, his phone, his glasses. None of them fell through the hole with him.
They were just
around the hole.
Like maybe he was holding them. I don't know. Drop them. I don't know.
And the people that found his body came up to this spot where I was standing and looked down and went, these were coworkers of Ray's on their lunch break.
Oh, that's right.
Trying to help the cops. And they said, what's that hole down there with glasses and a cell phone around it? Maybe that's where Ray is. So weird.
I know.
Anyway, I found my way into that Galleria. So there's I actually got in through the hotel. So I went down a staircase from the parking structure and went in to the hotel to get access to that mini mall. And I found the door. And so this is, that's the door at the end there. And I didn't want to get too close because right up here, if you're looking and you can see my cursor, there is a security camera. Who knows if it's working or not?
Right.
The security camera just aimed straight at me right at that point. So I got a little bit closer to get another photo, and that's the camera again. And then I took a quick little video before I got out. Right through this door behind me is where they found Ray's body. It's the empty conference room. Used to be the pool. About 10 feet past that door is where he fell through the ceiling and his body was found. nuts.
Wow. I know.
And that's another that, like I was saying, like actually doing all the research and then seeing it, being there, feeling the energy of the place, like for yourself, is so weird. So I went around to the front of the building. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful historic place.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
The lobby, like there's weddings there all the time now. So I wanted to go to the Owl Bar where he and Porter used to have lunches all the time.
I know. That looks so cool. I want to go there.
Oh, it's so cozy. And yeah, like here's a look around at the ceiling. If you remember from the video, like this used to be like where during Prohibition people would come drink, and then if there was a raid coming, the owls on the top of the bar, their eyes would light up red, and everyone would swap out their drinks for iced tea.
That's so cool.
I had a beverage and I had dinner, and
Very nice.
It was so cozy and so nice. There's a limerick on the walls. A wise old owl sat on an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. And I was like, oh gosh, it's so Rey Rivera.
Right?
And then there's, gosh, I don't remember if I photographed the last window there, but there used to be 4 windows that finished the limerick, and now there's only 3. So go, what's the end of the limerick?
Oh man.
My guitar got some photos, but it's just such a beautiful building, and it's ancient. Not ancient, but it's historic. Yeah. It's a historical place, and this was one of the corners of the bar. It's just like a stone oven pizza.
That's
kitchen.
so cool.
That was my pizza that I got.
That looks really good.
Oh, it was so good. Everybody there was so nice. I asked my waitress about ghost stories, and she's like, "Dude, oh my gosh." There's ghosts crawling all over this place, and I was like, oh.
Please, just do this quick interview.
Right. These are the elevators. There's an old mailbox, but and before I left, the sun's going down, and I gotta catch my train. But I grabbed one last photo of the beautiful outside of the building, and it was just so cool to be there. Like, yeah, I've talked about the Queen Mary, and we've done and I've been to the Queen Mary, and we've done stories about that before, but it was never something that I was like so disconnected with. Like, I've never been to Maryland. I've never so to actually go there as a destination and find the door where right through there was his body, and stand there to look down where his coworkers found the hole.
Yeah,
it was wild and amazing, and I couldn't wait to share it with the Magical Mystery Hour Patreon.
There's definitely one thing I keep saying, like, oh, I want to do that, and David wants me to do it because there's a location like in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. And he wants to go there, and I'm like, I don't think that I need to go there.
But what is it?
Well, I want to at some point talk about the Manson family. And there's this location. I don't know exactly how he knows. I forgot how he knew about it, but it's like there's nothing out there, and you need like the 4-wheel drive, and you need to pack like all the extra water and all the extra food. And it's not really a road. And I was like, man, I don't know. Yeah. That's what David, he says, you'd have to rent a Jeep and hope you don't get a flat tire.
That's what my dad has been wanting to do this road trip with my Jeep. He calls it, I guess it's where they used to film a bunch of movies. It's where Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
Not Star Trek. I say Star Trek every freaking time. Star Wars.
Okay.
The shots of R2-D2 going through the canyon.
Oh.
And, like where all that kind of stuff was shot. And he's like, but we need your Jeep. and like spaghetti westerns. Like there's a whole town of movie set town, and he wants to go like next weekend, this coming weekend. And I'm like, okay. No, he's been talking about it for years.
Oh, okay. I thought he was just like, we're going.
No, but he's like, we need 4-wheel drive. We need a Jeep to go. And I'm like, all right, let's go.
All right.
So,
yeah, and David just put in the chat. He's like, Paul has a Jeep.
Yeah, you're welcome to borrow it. It never gets driven because I have a work car. But yeah, so maybe we're going this weekend on a father-son road trip to the Mojave Desert. But I don't know if that's where David wanted to go. But
I don't know exactly where it is. He knows. He showed me the map, and I was like, oh, God. Because I just have this fear that, like, we're going to break down, and there's no cell service, and there's no people and no hospitals.
Well, I'll have to look it up. My dad calls it Serra, Serra Gordo.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where he's going, but he went with the Air National Guard band on some kind of tour at some point, and they performed somewhere. But he was like, when he went, he's like, I gotta bring Paul here at some point, and I love that. So
yeah, no, that is really cool. It'd be really neat to see that kind of like iconic scenery. I'm pretty sure they did some Star Trek out in this area. I think in some of these hills.
Vasquez Rocks is a very popular place, and it inspired the scenescape of Cars. But it's out here in California. It's not too far away. They based the set of the silly Flintstones movie that they made with
John Goodman.
Yeah, at the base of those rocks. But like it's iconic in Star Trek, and I know I'm getting that right because Captain Kirk battled a green alien with big eyeballs at the base of that rock, and that's what it's famous for. So maybe we'll hit that up on our way up to Serra Gordo. Oh
yes, Jeff Goldblum had a show for a little bit, and he went to all these cool like locations, and he would talk about just various topics, and there's one he talked about jeans, and he went out there to Serra Gordo. That's where we went in the mines, right, David? There's like an old abandoned mine that he went into, I think. If I remember.
Jeans like
like the jeans
jeans like denim?
Yeah, no, jeans like denim. He's talking about jeans and how they're made and everything, and he was out there. I believe that's the one where he went in the mine because denim, like Levi Strauss got his start in the gold rush. That's when we got that because people's clothes are wearing out too fast. So he's like, I have all this canvas.
I'm panning for gold.
Yeah.
Let's make some clothes.
Yeah. I was told, because we do, like, the fourth graders at school do this play. It's called Gold Dust or Bust. And, like, all the schools around California, if you do a fourth grade play, that's what you do. And so we talk about that. And it's always, like, if you learn about the gold rush, what you learn is that the miners came out worse than they left, but the merchants got rich off the gold rush. Yeah, very few people got rich from mining gold, but merchants, that's what I say. They always have supply and demand. Have the supplies. That's the good job.
Yes. Well.
Oh, David says 4-wheel drives and extra tires.
That's what I was saying. After my dad and I get back, you guys can borrow the Jeep.
Right. We'll change the tires first, though.
You're welcome to it. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to do that.
No, I know. It's very expensive. Yes. I'll be like, Paul, pay for these tires.
No. I'm a little worried about this weekend already. Now I'm like, I haven't changed the tires since I bought it. So
right. Maybe just check. Just get your car tuned up before you leave.
Yeah.
I know. But your dad's very resourceful, so I'm sure he'll know all this stuff to.
Yes, absolutely.
He'd be a good guide.
Yeah, my dad's nothing but if not good with maps and GPS. He's all over that.
That's good.
A navigator.
Yes. Did you see I pointed this out earlier? Did you see this shirt that I got? Let me see.
I did. Yes,
Paul will appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it and I was like, I need that. Put it in the cart. All right.
Thank you for having me tonight.
I was gonna say, I guess we could finish up there. That was fun. I'm so glad you got to visit those places. So cool.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I went and I wanted to do one of these, but with the Queen Mary. But
yeah,
unfortunately, when we went to the Queen in April, all the tours we wanted to do, none of them we couldn't do any of the tours based on the Titanic.
Oh yeah,
that was going on. So I got to do 0 tours.
I still think we should do one of the ghost tours. We should go and.
Definitely not any of they have really silly looking seance experiences and stuff.
I know. I mean, part of me is like, I just wonder what it's like, but it's probably I haven't looked into it. It looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So Jamie and I, we were actually having like a cocktail nearby when the guy was introducing the seance tour to the group that had gathered, and we were just like, this is embarrassing.
Aw. But there's one, right? That's just like tour and here's the famous ghost locations.
Have, 10 different tours. One of them is after dark, and it takes you to the most haunted places on the ship. And yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be really fun. We should try that. For sure.
I'm just not into Ouija boards and seances. And
well, I mean, like, it's one thing if it's like a serious thing, but if it's like, ooh, spooky, you know.
Well, he was just saying stuff like, if you start to feel lightheaded and like someone is squeezing the back of your neck and you suddenly are getting short of breath, let me know. If you start to feel like someone's pushing on your chest and on your back at the same time at any point, let me know. And we're like,
oh no.
So if you start to feel kind of scared or claustrophobic or
a
little anxious, okay.
Yeah, they're implanting that in your brain from the start.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. So. I just want to go and take pictures and learn about what happened.
My thing is, let me into the space. Let me experience it.
Yeah, doesn't mean like I would love to know what happened. Like, oh, here's where. Blah, 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 you know, or even do it the other way. Go in, look around, take some pictures, and then learn about the history of the place and that kind of thing. That'd be
go
really
in,
cool.
Have your own experience, and then hear stories after about the history. Cool. Like that, to me, is a great tour.
Yeah. If only we could start those too.
Yes.
Another venture.
We're gonna do all of the things.
I know. Someday.
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, we will finish up there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, our Patreon peoples. I really enjoy doing these.
Supporting the show.
Yes.
Appreciate
Can't
it.
Thank
so
you
much.
enough.
Yes, absolutely.
So. All right. Okay. Well, with that, we will wish you all a wonderful night, a wonderful week. Really quick, this week on the Vaudacity Network, I know my show is moving to Tuesday at 8 this week. Dari has not decided when their show is going to be, but possibly before or Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. Are you doing anything this week?
I think. Wait, did we talk about deep cuts when that's happening?
Oh, we were like, we could do.
So we don't know.
We don't know, but there should be a deep cuts coming up soon. I don't know if that's this week or next week.
There should be deep cuts coming up soon. There's gonna be. I want to do the next episode of Cove. Have a request-a-sode style. Have all of our friends come on and perform music because it's been just too long since we've done that. So
I know.
That might be this week. I'm leaving, like I said, with my dad.
Yep.
Friday through Saturday we're gonna be gone, or Friday through Sunday we're gonna be gone on this thing. So maybe a Thursday night Cove, everybody, or maybe deep cuts. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see. There's more coming up.
I know. All right. Yep. Always stay tuned. That's why I say you need to subscribe and ring the bell if you have not, because sometimes we just pop up and we're like, hey, doing a show.
And we are preaching to the leaders of the choir.
Exactly. You all are. We know you're all subscribed, but you know.
There will be something soon.
Yep. You all know how it goes. All right. Well, again, with that, we wish you a good night. Have a happy week. And we'll see you probably a little later in the month, I believe, for a Magical Mystery Hour. Or the beginning of next month. We'll see. But yeah, we'll see you in a few weeks. All right. Good night.
Bye, everybody.